everybody. My name is Ashley Fletcher. I'm not to be mistaken as Lindsay Taylor, just so you know. So if you're thinking, didn't you just preach last month? No. That was not me. That was her. So I am Ashley Fletcher. I work in the School of Transformation. Yes. I work with Johnny Bowers and Lisa Bowers in Level 1. I help lead Level 1 with, so those signs that you guys see, that's the amazing Level 1 students. We worked hard today in class, right? And then I also help Nathan Taylor run Level 2. So they like to say that I'm the glue that sort of holds the team together. I'm like in the background reminding Nathan, hey, make sure you tell your students they have vacations coming up. Hey, Johnny, remember you're teaching tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., right? So I'm sort of that behind the scenes glue, holds together person. So that's what I do. And I've been praying about what the Lord really wants this church to hear for tonight. And he told me this last month, so I've been sort of stewing on it for a month, which has sort of been making me like a little anxious. But he showed me a vision of Jesus standing at each of the doors in the church, opening the doors wide open and saying, will you kick fear out of my church? I need fear out of my church. Like it needs to go. It needs to be kicked out. Will you get it out of my church? But he's saying this in a way of like, I'm going to open the doors, but will you move it out, right? Because you have to be willing in this. Like he's going to give you the opportunity, but will you be willing in this opportunity tonight? We have 23 minutes to examine ourselves with fear and say, I have some stuff I need to work on. Jesus, can you help me kick it out, right? So I'm anticipating it to be a little bit of a gut check. I'm anticipating it to be a little bit of a kick in the pants, but I know it's going to be powerful, right? Because I know Jesus, and he's a super powerful guy, and he likes to kick things out. That's not of him, right? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my recent inner healing, which is why sort of this stuff has been stewing in me for about a month or so. I had a recent inner healing with the amazing Chloe Wellsand. So she might be watching online. If anybody knows Chloe Wellsand, let me tell you, she is absolutely amazing. She serves so well. So a little nod out to Chloe Wellsand right there. And in this inner healing, I knew something big was going to happen. Actually, I scheduled about 3 months ago with Vicky, but you know, it's hard to nail down Vicky, right? So she's always busy. So it's one of those like, I just know I got to do it. I just got to deal with it. So I got Chloe, and we had this inner healing, and the Lord brought up this memory in my past. My sister sort of told you guys last month about the diagnosis of epilepsy in our family, right? My sister and I were diagnosed epileptic when we were teenagers. And he brought this memory back to when it first got influenced in our lives. So if you don't remember, I'm going to tell you about it. My sister and I were skipping school. I don't recommend anybody doing that, Briella. Don't skip school. We were skipping school to go away for the weekend. And we're driving the car. My sister fell off all day. She's been having she's falling off the street. She's just sort of walking weird. And we didn't really know what was going on. We're sort of confused by it. And we get in this car to go away for the weekend. And we're sitting in the back, and we turn this on the street. And all of a sudden I look over, my sister's sitting next to me, and she has a grand mal seizure right next to me, right? And all of a sudden, I don't really know what's going on. I'm freaking out on the inside going like, what's happening? And she turns completely purple in the face. She is rigid as a board, and I freak out. I don't know what's happening. And I sort of remember the panic and the anxiety and the fear that totally overthrew me. And I remember the next thing I did was I jumped out of the car and I booked it down the street. Like I was Speedy Gonzalez going down the street. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do, but that was my instinct, right? And the Lord brought me back to this moment when she's having this seizure in the car and she completely goes purple. And the Lord said, that's that's when fear came in. That's when fear came over and took over your life. And I asked the Lord, like, where were you in this? Where were you in this? And he said, do you know what happened? You shoved me out of the door. You kicked me out of the car. And you decided that fear was going to be a better friend to you in that moment than me in that moment. And I could so vividly see Jesus out of the car, because I remember asking him, like, why aren't you inside the car with me? Why aren't you sitting with her? What's wrong? Like, what's going on? And he's like, you kicked me right out. He's like, I was still there, but you kicked me out, right? And in that moment, I realized the fear of my sister dying consumed me, right? So every single moment from then on, when she had a seizure or I had a seizure, I literally thought, my instinct was going, she's gone, she's dead, right? And this has changed recently for me because I'm a new mom, right? I have a kid now. So now this thought of me dying doesn't just affect me. It's not just my life, it affects the kid's life. And it's a trickle effect, like it affects other people's lives, right? And fear is so nasty, it comes in and it sneaks in and it grabs a hold of you and it ruins things. It ruins your life, right? And that's not the nature of who Jesus is. It's not the nature of who God is at all. So I knew something was up and I knew something was wrong and it needed to leave me, right? So we're going to go to a verse. Okay. Everybody's heard this before. This is in Mark 6:47. So when it was evening, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. So this is Jesus on the land. He sent his disciples across the sea, right? Seeing them straining at the oars, which, side note, how can Jesus see them straining at the oars when he's on the land? Like, great eyesight, right? Seeing them straining at the oars, for the wind was against them, and about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea, and he intently to pass them by. Next. But when they saw him walking on the sea, they supposed that it was a ghost and cried out. For they saw him and were absolutely terrified, but immediately he spoke with them and he said to them, take courage, it is I, don't be afraid, right? Then he got into the boat and the wind stopped and they were utterly astonished, right? In an absolute crazy circumstance, the storms are going, the wind is coming down, the rain is going, they think they're going to die. Jesus comes out and says, don't be afraid, I'm right here. Don't you see me? I'm right here. And he steps in the boat, and it's like everything went, stopped, right? Because when Jesus is in the boat, everything's calm. There is peace, right? There's peace. So I'm going to have I have a nice demonstration. I'm doing Nicole Wallace tonight. I'm doing a visual demonstration, okay? So this is Kurt. This is my husband, right? Okay. Nice. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do a little visual demonstration of what fear can do to you when it impacts you, okay? And for me, this helped me get a bigger picture of, how much this actually influences my life, and it's not just a small thing in the moment, right? So I'm going to hand the mic over because I can't do this. Okay. So for example, if Kurt was terrified of the future, what happens? He has a hole in him. He has a hole in him. Okay, right? Yeah. Okay. If he's scared of a bunch of finances that aren't going to come in because we don't have enough, and he thinks we're not going to have enough, there's going to be another hole in him, right? Fear here, right? Okay. If Kurt has a fear of rejection because he thinks he can't make friends and no one's going to like him anymore, what's going to happen? There's another fear hole, right? So when we... In the moment, we think, oh, okay, my finances, I don't got enough, right? And then the moment passes you by. I'm not going to deal with it right now. I'm going to deal with what's going on right now. Well, the reality is, fear sticks with you. It stays with you. It doesn't just leave. Fear has a hole in you, right? A fear of finances, fear of rejection, fear of the future, it actually stays in you. And when you're whole in Jesus, that's how it was before. Like the full t-shirt was good. I was good in Jesus, but as soon as fear comes in, you get a gap in you and Jesus. You get a gap in you and Jesus. You get a gap in you and Jesus. Really? And it actually takes over. So tell me, where is Jesus in this? Where is Jesus in this? He's not there, right? And I had this revelation the other day of when we get up to see him in heaven, right? He's gonna come up to me and say, you know what? In that finances that you didn't trust me in, where was I? When you were so afraid of actually making friends that I tried to put into your life because you were so afraid of rejection, where was I? Right? And I'm gonna get up to him one day at the gates and he's gonna say, where was I in this, right? You didn't trust me in this situation, so I wasn't here at all. Thank you. And for me, that's an absolutely terrifying thing of I'm going to see him one day and I want to be welcomed in, and he's going to say, you know, you didn't trust me in that area because you were terrified, you were scared. You were fearful in this area, so I actually wasn't in that area at all. When the reality is, when we're supposed to get up to see him, we're supposed to be fully him, right? And from that picture, we're not full. So guess what? We got some work to do, right? So I'm just going to name off a couple things that could resonate to you on some fearful things, okay? So just listen, take note, put them in your back pocket. So there's fear of failure, fear of the future, fear of not being married, fear of being alone, fear of not having enough, fear of being rejected, fear of being wronged, fear of being seen, fear of failure and making mistakes, fear of being sick, fear of death, fear of not actually knowing him or being able to hear him, the fear that I'll never change. There's fear of the dark. There's like endless things that fear tries to come in, right? Endless things. And we think that it's like not a big deal, but it's a big deal. Because if we're not whole with him, then we're going to be in trouble, right? And we sometimes think, well, I got my fear, you got your fear, you got your fear. Like, it's not so, like, it's okay, it's not a big deal. And the truth is, as a body, we affect one another, right? If I'm scared of my finances and I go over and I talk to my sister, hey, you know what? I don't think we're gonna have enough. I'm really scared of what's gonna happen. I don't really know what's gonna happen, you know? And all of a sudden, next thing I know it, she's scared, right? And then she talks to her husband, and if her husband's not secure and knows the truth from Jesus, then he's influenced, right? It just trickles in, and it affects one another. And that's not how the body is supposed to be at all. We're supposed to encourage one another, right? We're supposed to know what the truth is and stand firm in the truth and kick fear out when it tries to come in, right? And sometimes we think, oh, that's just a little small hole, right? I'm only a little bit scared of making a mistake, right? But the next time that situation comes around again, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And the next thing you know, you're consumed by it. Because that was me. I was absolutely terrified of what you guys would think of me. I was terrified. In speaking level 1 class, I'm terrified of what you're going to think of me, that you're going to think I'm stupid, that I'm dumb, I have nothing important to say. And then I'd be scheduled to teach, and I'd get absolutely terrified. My whole body would be hugely affected by it, and it would take me out. And then what happens? I affect other people. When the truth is, I've had an experience with Jesus and I know who God is, right? I've had an experience with Jesus, and now I can walk out and face fear when it tries to come at me and say, that's not who he is. That's not the nature of who he is, right? I wake up now, and if I'm having a rough day, I automatically, because of practice and because help from Steve, I automatically look to Jesus and say, no, you're faithful. You're a good father. That's who you are. I'm not going to align with fear today. I'm going to align with the truth of who you are, right? And that hole gets then gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? But it takes practice. It's not going to just be an experience you have tonight and then it's going to be done, right? You're going to get into the same situation again, and fear is going to be like, hey, am I going to get bigger? Am I going to get bigger? And you can go, no, I know who he is today. I'm not scared of not having enough because I know that my proven history with him has shown that he's going to show up. And not only in my life, but in everyone's life here, right? Amen. I can look in the crowd and see and know, yeah, you got a hole here, you got a hole here, you got a hole here, right? Everybody has them. This is not just a me thing. This is an everybody experiences this thing, right? But I can also look out in the crowd and know that Jesus has conquered a lot of these fears that you guys have had, right? I look at the Bean houses and know that hope has been restored in that family because I know they had fear that we're never going to get our family back. And what happened? You surrendered to him and you kicked fear out and he was victorious, right? Because that's the nature of who he is, right? Ugh. There's been numerous times where Jesus has shown up financially in a group like this, right? Because that's the nature of who he is. That's what shows up every single time, if you give them the opportunity to, right? But you have to give them the opportunity. You can't kick them out, right? You have to be willing to give them that opportunity to say, hey, what's the truth in the situation? Hey, can you fix that hole in me, right? So I was being prayed over tonight by Lisa Kelly, and she gave me this word of peace, right? And peace is to be set as one with him, right? So I can look back at a bunch of my experiences, and even tonight, saying there was no fear in that, because I feel your peace, right? You can go back to a similar experience where you've experienced fear before, and if you feel set as one as him and you can hear him clearly and you feel peace, you know the Lord has won in that situation. He's been victorious in that situation, right? And let me tell you, the Lord wants to win in this. The Lord, he's such an amazing, loving God that he wants to give you an opportunity to heal from this. He's such an amazing and loving Father that he's going to come in and try to show you another way. He's not a Father who's going to leave you abandoned, right? He's not a Father who's just going to say, you know what, I'm going to let fear consume you for the rest of your life. He's going to give you an opportunity to get healed. Because that's the nature of who he is. And I'm not saying this out of like, oh, I think I know this. No, this is because I actually know this and I've experienced this. I've experienced the faithfulness of God. I've experienced the greatness of God. I've experienced the power of who he is because he has conquered fear in my life, right? Satan tried to come up to me to say, oh, you don't have anything important to say. And yet I look at all these signs and this support from people, and I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I look at Satan in the face and I say, I'm sorry, don't you know who my God is? Like, don't you know who he is? Because my God is faithful every single time. Because that's proven it, right? So we're going to do an early altar call. But I want us to have an opportunity tonight to ask the Lord, is there a gap in me? Is there a hole in me of fear of some area because I'm unsure what's going to happen? I'm scared of what's going to happen in the future because I don't know if you're going to come through for me. I'm scared of fully committing to something because I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I'm fully afraid to build a relationship with people in this church because I'm afraid they're actually not going to like me and I'm going to be rejected in it. Or I'm fully afraid to actually make friendships within this church because you know what? They're going to leave me anyway because that's my experience. Right? Everybody has a fear of something. So we're going to have an opportunity tonight where the Lord is going to open the door and you're going to be able to kick it out. Okay? Good. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, I can deal with this tomorrow. I can deal with it in inner healing, right? No, but you're getting an opportunity tonight to deal with it. Don't walk out of this building thinking, I can just do it another time, right? He's actually trying to meet you here. He's trying to run to you and say, will you give me an opportunity to make you fully whole? And if you walk out this building, I'm sorry, like, your holes are going to get bigger. So if everybody could just close their eyes right now. And just ask the Lord, like, is there a place in me where you're not there? Is there a fear that has consumed my life? And I'm going to encourage you, if he shows something to you, you need to grab a hold of this opportunity and you need to come to the altar and repent. Because the reality is you need to repent because he was not in that spot. And he wants so desperately to be in that spot. He is a loving Father who wants to be intimate with you. He wants to be so close to you. And I promise you, if you face this thing, if you face this fear with Jesus, you will come out victorious because that's the nature of who he is. He so desperately wants to fill those holes. And don't, again, think, oh, this one's just too small. This one's just too small. Oh, I can deal with that later. No, this is your opportunity tonight to get in face with the Lord and have him fill you up. The doors are wide open, church. He's trying to say, kick fear out of my church. This is my church. This is not fear's church. This is my church. And I want you to picture Jesus coming in. And he's going to touch you and he's going to fill that gap. His peace is going to come in and fill that gap. Jesus, we just ask for your healing touch tonight. We repent and say, I'm so sorry you were not in that spot. I'm sorry if you weep because you're not in that spot with me and I kicked you out of the door. be now? Can you be here now and fill that hole? You're such a loving Father who cares so much for all of us. And I just say, fear, get out of my church. Get out of my friends, leave my church. You're not welcome here anymore, for the joy of the Lord and the peace of the Lord is the only thing that's welcome in this church. Jesus, we just ask for your presence just to increase and increase and increase. We just ask for your peace just to wash over. Just wash over the church. Watch over our family. We thank you so much that you're such a loving, loving Father. You meet us every single time. And I just encourage you just to stay in that spot with him, just to experience him a little bit more. This might not just be a one thing, this might be a couple things. Because he sees your hurt and he sees your pain. And he just wants to fill you up. Jesus, we just pray that this day is an impact for us, where we get to go further with you, closer to you, draw closer to you. We thank you so much that we're not done yet, but we get to go further and deeper with you.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe so that you never miss another video or live stream. And if you'd like to support the Father's House, just click the Give button. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you soon.